Call this meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everybody, welcome board members to the Amite River Basin Drainage and Water Conservation District monthly meeting here today, Tuesday, December 10th at the Louisiana State Capitol. Can I get a Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Parker?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you.
Later, you can send those later.
Ms. Tony, can we get a roll call?
All right, Mr. Bailey is absent. Mr. Byrd, absent. Mr. Clark,
Present.
Mr. Quintmall,
Present.
present. Miss Cindy O'Neill, present. Mr. Weber, is someone here for that position today? Absent. Ms. Verlito's absent. Mr. Harrell, absent. Mr. Harris,
Here.
Mr. Gary O'Neill, Mr. Parker,
Here.
Mr. Rayford,
Here.
who'd we skip?
You skip somebody?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, Mr. Bailey should be here. He's not.
Give us one moment, please.
Yes, please. We have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Okay,
Yes.
Good deal. Before we get started with the meeting today, one of the things, take care of some business. I would like to remove an item from our meeting agenda, and that is, let's see, I'm looking. It's in regard to the Amite River Basin Commission Master Plan, authorize ARBC Legal to enforce data use, sharing agreement with Pontchartrain Levee District's latest H&H model for Bayou Manchac watershed that was paid for with public funds. That was originally an action item, and we've since worked that out, and all I need is a motion to remove it from the agenda.
Make a motion.
Okay, I got a motion by Commissioner Parker and second by Commissioner O'Neill. Any objection? Hearing none, items removed. Okay, thank you. All right, looking at our item number 4 on our agenda today, it's public comments. Public comments, if please register with our secretary, and it looks like we've received some public comments already, and there'll be an opportunity to speak on public comments on that particular item and also at the end of the meeting. Okay, moving on, our next item on our agenda is under number 5. It's going to be approval of our minutes. Commissioners, you've had a chance to review the minutes. Everything good. Motion by Commissioner Parker.
Second.
I have a second by Commissioner Harris. Any opposition? Okay, motion passes to accept the minutes as written. Approval of our financial statement is number 6 on our meeting agenda. It's our financial statements ending October 31st, 2024. You have your packets, Commissioners, that were given to you prior to the meeting weeks before. Hope you've had a chance to review our financial statements. I would like to say that there's not a lot of finances to report and deal with since we really don't have a steady funding stream, but we've been very creative with what we got, and but everything is accountable and accounted for. All I need is a motion to accept.
Motion.
I got a motion from Commissioner Harris. Do I have a second? Commissioner Rayford seconds. Any opposition to our financial statements? Okay, motion passes. Next item on our agenda is number 7, and that's a report by the ARBC president. And the bullet item was removed, a discussion of the Punch Train Levy District. We're working together. The Punch Train Levy District is on our board, and they continue to support us in our endeavor to, whether it's our master plan or whether it's something to do with Bayou Manchac, they continue to support us. Our next item is under my report is discussion of executive director position. I just wanted to let everyone know that we do not have an executive director. I fill in a lot. We have a contractor, Water Institute. They fill in. They help us with the Louisiana Watershed Initiative Regional Capacity Building Grant, and it's basically coordinating Region 9. The Amite River Basin, listed under Louisiana Watershed Initiative, is classified as Region 9. And so they help with those duties and activities. And also they help us with coordinate and manage our contractor who is responsible for preparing our ARBC master plan. The challenge with the ARBC master plan is not just to capture everything that we want to do and the problems and where we want to go and the funding challenges, but there's a short deadline. There's a legislative deadline that it requires us to have something prepared for this next legislative session, and the bids for that went out, it wasn't but about 2 or 3 months. So we're trying to pull something together, and from what I've seen so far, I'm very impressed with the work that's been done. So I feel confident that this contractor, Dewberry, is going to provide that. And now with Punch Train Levy District also helping assist in that endeavor, we're going to have a product that we should be proud of. And the thing with a master plan, plan. But the thing with a master plan is that it becomes kind of like the steering mechanism that kind of guides the whole mission, and it can survive changing administrations, changing everything, and we don't have to keep reinventing the wheel. So this is something that's been long overdue, and it's going to be a guide for us to follow and for open to the public, for everyone to see and absolutely incorporate all the public stakeholders' input to help shape the master plan. And that concludes my statement. Do I have any questions? Anything about the executive director? Basically, we're without an executive director, and we're going to be looking to hire an executive director to fill that position to help us drive the ship. Okay, moving on. The meeting agenda under number 8 is a report by the ARBC Legal Counsel, Mr. Larry Bankston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the items kind of in reference to the executive director position is to whether or not that individual, that whether we have to re-advertise, that is not required. That there is the authority to hire an executive director without any further advertisement. There's no requirement of advertisement because of the fact that it's a professional service contract. But if the board decides that they want to advertise and receive people that are interested, that process is there. That's really the only issue that was pending in my report.
Thank you, Larry. So sounds like to me if we hire them as a contract employee that we can go forward without.
That's correct. They would not be technically a state employee. They would not be subject to, they would be a professional service contract.
They would not participate in lasers, and they would not participate in state group benefits.
Thank you. We have any questions on that? Okay, hearing no questions. Moving on our meeting agenda. Under number 9 is old business. We have 4 bullets under old business, starting out with the first one, and that's a status of the Upper Comite River project with East Feliciana and Commissioner Ed Parker. Commissioner Parker, can you shed a little light on this and bring us up to date on where we are? We've been a lot of back and forth with this particular project, and could you please update the commission?
At one point, after several meetings with LWI and several meetings within the parish with the police jury, we've looked at it. We had a budget of roughly $27 million to do this. But on the 26th of November, I met with LWI along with ARBC President John Clark, and it come to a feasibility study. The feasibility study showed that it would not be less than 3% effective by doing the clearing and snagging of the Comite and several of its tributaries, when the police jury had already done part of Purdy Creek, which flows into the Comite. So there's going to be added water there to help reduce flooding in the town of Clinton. They said they'd done the whole thing on Purdy Creek. Nothing there points to where it was completed. Where we're at this point, after meeting with LWI on the 26th of November at 2 p.m., the President, John Clark, and myself, we come to an understanding with LWI. The funding is there, but the feasibility study shows less than 0.3% effectiveness by doing any snagging or clearing of the Comite. So at that time, I said, well, we'll put the project on hold. What happens now is the parish gets to decide if they want to go in and do a buyout of those people that flooded in 2016. The buyouts would encompass part north of Highway 10 and through the town of Clinton. I don't see this as feasible to do with $27 million, but you never know. So that is where we're at this time. At this point, knowing what I know now, I'm going to withdraw my projects from the table. I've already been given an assurance from LWI that the money, the $27 million, will stay within Region 9, to which we will be able to use that money on other projects. So at this time, I'm asking the commission to allow me to withdraw these projects, and then we'll go in a different direction.
Okay, so appreciate that explanation, Commissioner Parker. And, you know, just to clarify, this project originated, it was just to help the people in East Feliciana that flooded. And if you've dealt with the police jury, they have limited resources. They have and financial staff and such, and as a result of that is kind of like one of those underserved communities, and we wanted to do something to try to help them. And one of the things that was very apparent to us is that there was decades and decades of storm debris that has piled in the channel like cordwood, and it's kind of like doing a little housekeeping. We recognize the value of the Comite River as scenic river designation. It's beautiful, but by no means was we going to do a project that would change the natural integrity or the scenic value of that river or function. By no means. It was just essentially remove some excess debris to the point where it's got like it's clogged, but maybe we'll just let nature take its course. So at this point, I need a motion and a second. I got a motion by
Motion.
Commissioner Bailey and a second by Commissioner Rayford. And at this time, along this, we would invite the public to come up and provide any type of public comments in this regard to this project, and maybe shed some light that we may not see clearly on a local level. And so I think we have a list of the people who have submitted requests to come up and comment. If you want to comment, we surely welcome it, and we want to work together. So please.
Mr. Chairman, we have a number of people that have submitted comments that do not wish to speak, and just inform them that each of their comments will be added to the minutes of the meeting, so that will be reflected. There has been a number of individuals that have requested an opportunity to speak, and I'll call them out and ask them if they still want to come speak. The first one is Kerwin Ross. They still want to speak? Have a seat, if you would, sir.
It has pretty well already been decided what I wanted in the first place, but we like to keep our rivers scenic, and the blockage, it may hurt us, but it's helping the people downstream because the water's not getting down there so fast. And if you don't have enough sense to build on higher ground, you should get flooded. But that was our main thing. We want our duck hunting and our fishing areas, our wooded areas. I got carbon credit trees along Comet. I own about 2 miles of Comet frontage above Highway 10. And that's just what I'd like to say about it. I appreciate that it is on whole council to whatever.
Thank you. Next individual is it Julia Doucette?
Hi, I'm Julie Doucette with the Louisiana Archaeological Survey and Antiquities Commission, and I just want to say that bringing vehicles and people into these pristine areas to do any work does almost as much damage as just leaving it there. And when you remove that stuff, the erosion that comes with it has the potential to damage the environment in the area, people who live in the area, and equally important, unrecorded archaeological sites that might be in the area. There's always the danger of erosion just wiping away history that we don't know anything about yet. So any plan moving forward, and I've already checked with the Division of Archaeology, and no permit or review process was done in their office on this project. So I am glad that it is tabled for now. And with a less than 0.3% feasibility, that makes total sense. Thank you.
The next individual is Arlene Culpepper.
Good morning. I'm on the board of Clinton's Home Foundation and the Feliciana Wildflower Project, and I also work with the Feliciana Soil and Water Conservation District. I'm a landowner in the northeastern part of the parish. The land that we own, that my family owns, has been in the family since 1898. Beautiful pieces of property in several areas. We already deal with a lot of erosion, and since whatever was done with Pretty Creek, we're very near there, we've experienced Pretty Creek running through our property pretty much, and we're probably about a third of a mile from it, but it's creating even more problems. I'm really afraid that if anything additional were done, it would flood people that have never flooded before. The wildlife in the area is beautiful. We even have bears sometime, and I'm worried about all of that. Not sure what would happen, but I think with, as Ms. Doucette said, with a 3% rate through the feasibility study, it just makes sense to table it for now. We do appreciate Mr. Parker, of course, trying to help us. We are very underserved, as you mentioned, and again, we do appreciate his efforts, but for now, I'm on the side that is almost excited that this did not happen today. So just wanted to make those comments. Thank you.
The next individual is Isis Longo.
ISIS.
Longo.
You got close. Good morning, everybody. I am here because I'm a third-generation Comite landowner. Now we have actually 5 generations on the property. And I'm also speaking for a fair number of landowners from the Mississippi line on Pretty Creek, Redwood Creek, Little Comite Creek, Comite River, and Amite River, the people that couldn't make it and that I was able to reach before this meeting. So I have lived, hunted, worked, and fished on this river my entire life, all the way back to my great-grandparents. I have a degree in fisheries biology, so I have also sampled and studied this river most of my professional life. And I am well aware of what happens when you get into a river or a stream and you snag and you clear and you dredge. You no longer have a river or a stream. You have a ditch or a canal. You no longer have your wildlife. You have, like I said, what can live in a ditch and a canal, and that's invasive species, which take a huge amount of money to manage in the long term. So I am obviously opposed to this, and every landowner I have talked to, with one exception only, up and down these riverways and streamways, are opposed to this. And my comments are included in more depth in my card. I'm happy to give you a list of landowner names that I'm speaking for, and I would like to know why there was not more public notice when this was brought up before our police jury on November 18th. When the Zoom meeting happened, I guess on the 26th, I heard about that last night after I had spent 2 weeks talking to landowners and basically missing my hunting season for this. So that is what I have to say today, and I would like to know why we're not being included more in this process. Mr. Parker, can you answer that?
Number one, with the police jury.
You got it? All right. The police jury was supposed to put it on the agenda. And therefore they did not. What we have done with ARBC is that we did a feasibility study, which wasn't released to the public. The feasibility study was done by the old ARBC commission. When the new commission was formed, this was a project that we vetted more than once, and it's been posted on the agenda. We have met in several different places. It's always been open to the public. I'm sorry that...
Spoke to the past ARBC, I guess he was the president, and did not get the same information that I'm getting from you now, nor did I get the same information
when
from
you
our
say
police.
when you say the old ARBC president, who was that?
Dietmeyer, I believe.
Who?
Dietmeyer.
He wasn't the president of the commission. He was an engineer that was hired by the commission at the time.
Okay.
All
Well,
right.
I still got a different story
Well-
from him. I also got a different story from our police jury when I asked why it was not on the agenda when you
Well,
spoke.
that I can't answer for that. I've asked for it to be on the agenda more than once. As a matter of fact, the ARBC president and I went and met with the manager of the police jury.
So why don't we put it on the police jury for the new year so that everybody can have a say instead of getting us
I'm fine with
this
that,
sprung on
but
us the day before Thanksgiving and then having it mess up our holidays and then having to find out the night before that it's going to be tabled.
well, the idea of this, it wasn't decided to table it until after the meeting of the 26th.
I picked up on that.
All right. Therefore, after the 26th, I met with the ARBC president and a decision was made that we would table this, put it on hold until we could figure out what we really need to do.
Gotcha. So what does that mean? When you
Well, that-
table
that
something,
means-
it's still, can potentially still be untabled and happen again, and we would be in the same fix.
Ma'am, you're here for the purpose of giving your comments, not to have a back and forth with Mr. Parker. You can do that after the meeting, but,
Okay, so how do we stay in the loop?
well, this is posted on our website, on ARBC. Every meeting is posted, all the agendas, all the minutes, all the comments are always on the website. You're welcome to look at that website and go back and look at the history, and all of that history is on the website. So, but this is, the opportunity to speak is opportunity
Okay.
not to have a debate with
Well,
Mr.
I will
Parker.
continue speaking then. I've already lost one home to erosion on the Comeet. I'm in the process of losing land, just like every other landowner on the Comeet. And these proposed mechanical interventions on the riverways are going to definitely make erosion, sedimentation, and loss of habitat much more likely. So I'm strongly against it, and those are my reasons why.
Thank you.
All right.
The next individual is Dr. Day, and also Dr. Day has presented a two-page written aspect which will be made part of the minutes.
The reason I did that is it's exactly 3 minutes long. Some of you know me. I've been in this battle for
Yes, sir.
decades, it seems like. So let me just read this. All right. I have a home at 11843 Port Hudson Pride Road. It flooded in 2016. And so I've suffered like a lot of people. I'm going to address three issues: clearing and snagging of the upper Comeet, the impact of dramatic restriction of the floodplain at the Port Hudson Road crossing is mostly on an embankment, and head cutting in the East Bank tributary just north of the Pride Port Hudson Road, and erosion on the West Bank is dramatically threatening 7 homes. And I've met with Mr. Brayford about that. He came out there, and I think he agrees with me 100%. Okay, so I oppose clearing, snagging in the desert. And so this has already come up, and I think most people knew that intuitively, that it wouldn't make any difference. So, and the river is eroded down in its channel about 12 feet because of the shortening of the Comeet River system. It's eroding its bank. It's gotten deeper. It's gotten wider. So, in effect, earlier activities have already done what you were proposing to do. The river is a mature channel, and I've canoed up and down the stream, and there's not a lot of blockage in there. I've come down from in the 40 or 50 years we've been out there. Me and my family have gone up and down the river. So, and I agree with ISIS that clearing and snagging would just continue to degrade this important natural resource of the river. Okay, point 2, the dramatic restriction of the floodplain by the embankment at Port Hudson Pride Road caused an increase in water levels by 2 feet during the 2016 flood. I've given you a little graph there that comes from the ARBC modeling, and I use the ARBC interactive flood inundation map viewer I just went down it from the parish line down below the river, and it looks to me it's more than 2 feet. So my home flooded for about 30 inches and during the 2016 flood, and if that embankment wouldn't have been there, I don't know if it would have gotten in my house, but it certainly wouldn't have destroyed. I had to get all new appliances, and West Bank. And also the west bank of the river is eroding dramatically, threatening a home of Miss Catherine King. And it's that restriction, something needs to be done about it. And And finally, because of the lowering of the riverbed, tributary deepening and head cutting have become very serious. Just upstream of the bridge, the East Bank tributary is deepened and widened. 5 homes in a barn will ultimately be destroyed. They will be destroyed if we don't do something about it. And I've met with the Corps, I've met with the state, I've met with Mr. Rayford. The people from the Amite River Basin Commission have been out there. No one's ever disagreed with this. And it is going to happen. And, you know, you could fix the problem for 25% of what it's going to cost to deal with people when we start losing our houses. And I personally have spent about $15,000 building extensive bulkheadings and filling a rapidly head-cutting channel with broken cement to protect my home. Since construction of the bulkheading about 15 years ago, the bulkhead's been undermined by the continuing lowering of the riverbed and the adjustment of the tributary channel to that. And like I said, we have people who've been out there over and over, and none of them disagreed with our assessment, and we've proposed cost-effective approaches to addressing these problems. And despite this, it seems that our homes and properties are being written off. You know, and the community up in Clinton, I feel for them because I'm facing the same thing. I want to hear this commission address this. Mr. Rayford came out to the House. He promised me that he was going to keep me up to date. That's a year ago almost, and we haven't heard from you, Fred. So, and we want to be involved, like assets. We want to be involved. I'm willing to come to meetings and make presentations. I've written long reports. I want to share that with you. But we're not going to stand by and watch our houses fall into the river, and that's what's happening. And I invite anybody to come up there and do that. So I want to work with you, and I don't want to fight with you. All right, thank you.
And that's it. That's all the comments.
One more person?
Oh,
Another comment?
yes. Come on up. Could you fill out one of the form?
It may be mixed in with.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
A bunch handed to me at the last minute, over 30.
My name's Allison Ligon. I'm a property owner, and I just wanted to speak out in opposition to the dredging and debris removal that's been tabled thus far. My main concern as a property owner is erosion, the changes in my property value, and damage to the property from moving the large equipment that's going to have to come in to do the dredging, and to the damage that would be done to our property for access. I have access to the property where I am. I have access to the river on my property, and I would hate to see that used and damaged by heavy equipment. The erosion is just going to increase. We've seen it on our property. We've been there for 4 generations. We've seen it increase, and it will increase with the increased flow speed if this is done. Also, I just would like to remind everyone about the scenic river designation. I know everyone's aware of that, but if you look on the LDWF website, the Comet River is one of 3 Louisiana rivers that was chosen to be featured in a flyover video for its scenic value. And it is, quote, fragile waterway with changing white sandbars and, quote, diverse riverine habitat. So for 4 generations, our family has enjoyed wood duck hunting on the Comet wetlands and the sloughs adjacent to it, fishing, hunting, swimming in the water that is cold and clear and beautiful now, and we want to keep it that way. So please don't relegate this natural resource into a drainage ditch.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir, come forward. Just state your name and where you're from.
My name is John Sablature. I live at 22161 Tucker Road, and thank you for this opportunity to speak, and I appreciate Mr. Parker tabling this, I feel, misguided directive. There's been plenty enough said about erosion and habitat destruction and everything. I'd just like to point out two things to really impress on your mind. I'm a 1975 Bachelor of Science in Chemical Engineering graduate, so I'm well versed in fluid flow and hydraulics. I've worked in industry over 50 years, primarily ExxonMobil and Valero. And I've also been recruited to be a professor at ITI. So I've trained a lot of engineers, and they wanted me to train more engineers. And one training technique is to keep it simple. So I got a little demo here I'd like to show you. This is the Comite River right here, okay? It goes from, Clinton down to Central, and then Denham Springs joins the Amite right at the Florida Bridge. Currently, nearly finished is the diversion canal, which is designed to dump about 50% of the flow into the Mississippi River. All right? I'm not sure if your name is Clark, but I know you're the director. If you're not inclined to get wet, would you prefer somebody coming at you with a water hose or a fire hose? It's might be a silly question, but if you dredge and remove the stumps and everything, you increase the flow. This diversion canal is not going to be increased. If you increase the flow, you're going to make the flow bigger. And where's it going to go? It's going to go right into Central and Denham Springs. The exact thing that you're supposed to be stopping is increasing the flow down there, increasing the flooding. If you let the diversion canal take the flow, leave the stobs in there, let it flow, you're going to get the maximum percentage of water out to the Mississippi River. And so I'd like to just leave that little demo with you. And I'd also like to point out one more thing. We have videos of bald eagles feeding in this river system. So please don't mess up their feeding habitat. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate that breakdown. Larry?
So the comments of individuals that have provided here, those who did not wish to speak, will also be entered into the minutes of the meeting, and their information will be noted as such.
And that's part of the public record?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Motion seconded by.
So I had a motion by Mr. Parker, and I had a second by Commissioner Rayford. So hearing those motions and opposite in our public comments, do we have any opposition on this motion to withdraw this project and utilize the money elsewhere in the ARBC? Any opposition? No opposition. Hearing none. Okay, motion passes. Okay, moving along. Our next item under old business is a report/presentation by, I'm sorry, I'm skipping ahead. The Water Institute presentation. And they're not here today, so I can update everyone. Basically, we've been meeting frequently with the Watershed Initiative. There's been several workshops that have been provided to us, to the steering committee, to all of the stakeholders in Region 9 to get better knowledgeable of different types of funding opportunities that are out there that you may already know about or may not know about. As a means of being creative and getting things done. So we've had a couple calls with our coordinator. We've had discovery workshops and so forth. Also, we had asked the Water Institute to help us set up like a little calendar that identifies all the different grants and funding sources with deadlines of when the request for proposals or request for projects is due, so we can kind of get ahead of the game, and that where we can be proactive rather than reactive and wait to the last minute to try to solicit a project or prepare an application. And So HNTB is helping to work on that, and that's basically it. It's been kind of a slow month. Things are kind of slowing down. And so that's the report that we have from the ARBC contractor, Water Institute, on the LWI Region 9 coordinator updates. Our contractor, the Water Institute, is working real close with our contractor for the ARBC master plan. That's Dewberry, and they'll provide Dewberry's up next to give a update report on the status of the master plan. Are y'all ready? Okay, Mr. Sam Campton with Dewberry is going to provide us an update on their progress with the Amite River Basin Commission master plan. Sam?
Right, thank you. So, this month, obviously a bit of a crazy month with the deadline to get the draft to you coming up very, very quickly. So there's a lot of late nights pulling this together right now, but things are coming together real nice. I'm certainly liking what I'm seeing. So some things I just wanted to highlight. We have looked into some things like freeboard recommendations. And a few years ago, the state passed a law requiring 1 foot freeboard on new and substantially improved residential structures. And I know Commissioner O'Neill to my left here was very instrumental on getting that pushed through. And so one thing with the plan, we've been able to look at the data we've got, and we did a what-if scenario. Let's say hypothetically this was implemented back in 2000 rather than in the last couple of years. And during that time, there's about 4,000 new residential structures that were identified from the National Structure Inventory. And what this is demonstrating, that if that had been implemented in 2000, we'd be looking at about $11.2 million of averaged annualized losses avoided by that freeboard. And so this is just a very, very powerful way to see the benefit of elevating structures a little bit higher. And we're actually looking into recommendations for the board because we've got more information than is currently available now. We have things, for example, like the 2050 projected flood elevations, where we look at change in rainfall patterns, sea level rise, and change in urbanization. And so we do have that information as well. So possibly you could utilize that as a higher standard as well for for freeboard elevations. So some very encouraging numbers there that really show the state is heading in the right direction with freeboard requirements. So I know I mentioned before with the Amite diversion weir, I just want to share you some of the graphics we've got, and we're still refining these a little bit closer. So what we have here is what we've been able to reconstruct the best we can from the original design documents from the 50s, which basically showed the weir as a 1,500-foot long weir, elevation 0. And what I'm going to do in a second, when I click the forward button to the next slide, you're going to see 50 years or about 50 plus years of erosion in just 4 seconds. So I'm going to hit this now, and you'll be able to see that morph into where we are today. And we're going to make this look even better, particularly to make the rip-rap weir parts stand out better. But you can see that really excessive scour holes. And the interesting thing there, that was originally designed to be, the riverside was originally designed to be -30, I believe, and that has silted in, and there's some places there that are only 5 to 7 feet deep. With some of the sediment transport modelling that we've done, which has really gone better than I ever thought it would, we were able to successfully replicate them depositions of the sediment, running simulations from the 80s to present. And then what we've also done is we've ran that forward to the year 2050, which is our planning outlook for the master plan. And what we're seeing there is that we can expect anywhere from 1 to 7 feet of additional sedimentation adjacent to the weir there. 1 feet being at the shallowest point and 7 sort of more upstream in the deepest part. So some very eye-opening numbers there, and that will all be documented in the report. So I did mention that we did a 2050 no action plan where we used NASA data for the rain rainfall projections, which showed about 11% increase. And then we looked at some of the EPA information on impervious area projections for 2050, where we're seeing like up to about 10%, almost 10% increase in impervious in some areas. And then sea level rise as well, based on one of the medium estimates. There's several different models, and so we took an intermediate one, not the highest, not the lowest. And generally, overall, we're looking about almost half a foot increase globally. Some places that's going to be more, so the worst hit part is going to be Denham Springs, because this is where it sort of traverses over a geologic plane and spreads out, and so being a big river, you're going to see a lot more, or about 10% more rainfall falling on there, and so the increases there can be up to about a foot. And in terms of economic losses during a 100-year flood, we're estimating 2050, you're going to see about $777 million of additional losses based on today's money. And the real eye-opening thing there is that this would put almost 8,000 additional structures in the floodplain. And the reason for that is because there hasn't been, or my theory on why that is because there hasn't been a freeboard in the past. Developers are generally going to elevate to the minimum level that they need to meet regulatory purposes. And so it doesn't take much of an increase in flood elevation for them structures to be added. So them additional nearly 8,000 structures would be just barely inundated, but obviously would be significant. So there's some interesting information there that really we've got some solutions as well that we hope would actually reverse it the other way, that elevations would actually be going down. So one of the biggest things that I'm seeing, which I think is going to be one of the most important things, is we have been looking at the potential impacts if we was to utilize the data that the Louisiana Watershed Initiative has developed and use them to update the FEMA maps. As I'm sure you're all aware, the data in the FEMA maps, even though a FEMA map may be dated, say, 2010, the data that's included in it is more like 30 years old. Technology that was around then is nothing compared to what you see us demonstrating more recently, like just from the elevation data, which back then was based on USGS quad maps that are probably only 10-foot contours, to today we have LiDAR data that's accurate to within a few inches most of the time. And so it gave very significant changes in the flood elevations and the flood extents. The good news is, overall, it would actually result in some decreases, and there's actually some very large numbers of benefits, particularly Livingston Parish. We're seeing thousands of structures that could potentially be removed from the special flood hazard area that are on high ground, and similarly in other parishes. So there certainly is going to be some that, if the studies were adopted, there would be some structures added to the floodplain, but overwhelmingly it's going to be a large magnitude of structures removed, and it's really because of better data and certainly a better understanding of the risk. So I think this is going to be a very important part of the master plan, and we are presenting some recommendations on if you wanted to really push, whether at the ARBC level or at the parish level, if you wanted to push to get the FEMA maps updated, we're providing some recommendations on how that can be done, and I would strongly recommend pushing it based on what I've seen. So here's just a few examples here. So essentially, and excuse me, because I'm sure you'll know I'm very badly colorblind. So basically what we see here, which looks like the green colors, and I have asked them to update these colors for the final plan, so our geographers are working on that at the moment. Like these green areas that you see in Livingston there is all high ground that has been inadvertently put in the effective FEMA floodplains, and so there's some huge potential there. That looks like just upstream of Florida Avenue there. Huge opportunity to reduce the flood risks on the maps there, to give some well-needed relief, and these are areas that were not observed to flood necessarily in the 2016 for the most part. Another example on the right with EBR Parish, you can see the green areas there where the floodplains, the effective floodplains, just don't really align with reality based on the topo that was used. So there's some huge potential there to really give some benefits. Another thing that we've been doing is the community rating system. So we looked at which communities are and are not participating in the community rating system, which is a FEMA program that rewards communities for proactive floodplain management. And most of the communities here are in that program. There's a lot that still aren't. But what we really want to do is we want to make it easy for the communities within the district to gain the activity credits that result in discounted flood insurance for their residents. And we have done a detailed review of the CRS program, where we are in the basin, and then what we've really worked to do is to map the actions of the master plan to activities so that the master plan can be adopted by communities or the recommendations adopted, and that will help get CRS credits and potentially result in some significant benefits and discounts for insurance premiums. So just to highlight one potential activity, there are CRS points for regulating to a higher standard. We have, as part of this master plan, developed, as you just see, the 2050 conditions, where we'll be in 2050 with no action. If that's used for regulatory purposes, there's significant points can be had there. We're making recommendations on floodplain preservation. That is one activity that can gain a lot of points. And so we're really sort of mapping it out to make it easy for the communities within the district to take a look at these tables that are in the plan and see how they can potentially take the master plan data and get them points. And so this is just one of the many pages that we'll be providing to you shortly for a review. Another thing that we wanted to recommend is just some data management recommendations. So I haven't been in the consulting business for 25 plus years. Certainly, if you're updating plans that were not necessarily done by you the first time, it can be very challenging to get this data. And so one of the things that we really wanted to do is make recommendations to make this data available with like digital data repositories. And one of the key things is to preserve this investment that you've made. There's a huge amount of technical data being collected, a huge amount of models being built. We want to make sure there's a foundation to preserve this data so that in 6 years from now, when you're updating the master plan, you can just go and get that data. Even just down to things like the actual files that we use to make the master plan document, the InDesign and Word files, just having that all in a repository so it's easy to obtain, and then just making it available for the community of practice so that other consultants and communities can use the models to assess projects and manage floodplains more wisely. And then another thing that's going to be part of this is some of these tools for emergency planning. This is where we're really taking the LWI data and taking it to a new level, and that may, in many cases, actually be simplifying it because there's a huge amount of technical data that in an emergency response is going to be a lot to digest in a short time, and so we're repackaging a lot of the LWI data in a lot more straightforward approach that will be very valuable for emergency planning and response, and that we should have a preview for you very shortly. And really helping as well to just communicate more accurate the flood risk throughout the basin. So the schedule. So we are going to have the preliminary draft sections, which I plan to share some of these sections with you next week. We've got a lot of sections have just been finished this week and now being merged. Now, just a caveat, the review, we're really just looking for sort of high-level comments on where we're going rather than sort of the tech editing type things, because this has been written by about 15 people, and right now it looks like that. So technical content I'm comfortable with, but we will be refining the language and that, but I'd love to get your input on the content. And so we're on schedule to deliver the draft plan on 12/30/24. Now, as you know, we are still waiting on some information on projects, which I think we're close. Once we have that, we can start merging that into the plan and looking at the overall impact of implementing the plan. And so just given the timing now, that really isn't going to be possible to have that part of it done by the end of the year, but we'll certainly have that done in January, and we will provide an updated plan with the different combinations of runs. So we will get that done as quick as we can, but we will still get the draft master plan by the end of the year, just minus a couple of parts there. And then on the schedule, we got the board review from 12:30 to 1:17. Obviously, any comments after that, we will make every effort to incorporate, and then we plan to provide you with a final draft, hopefully at least a week before the legislative session, and so in case there's any last-minute updates, but either way, that will be ready to deliver for the next legislative session. And that's it for my slides. So if anyone has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer, and feel free to reach out to me anytime with any comments or questions.
Ms. O'Neill, Commissioner O'Neill.
Do you have any idea when you may schedule the public meetings to review this final draft?
Yes, so so to review the final draft, that's something that we will coordinate with you on. That will be after the plans finished. So the first public meetings was to gather public input. The final meeting is to present the plan and answer any questions on it. So those public meetings would occur after the delivery to the legislators, and we'll work with you to identify them dates. And obviously, if you wanted them before as like a presentation of the draft meeting, we are more than happy to do that any time in the new year.
Thank you.
Do we have any more questions? Commissioner O'Neill.
The other Commissioner O'Neill. Sam, thanks for the hard work. I know this was a extremely truncated time frame. I wanted to point out to folks out there that right now there's only real two ways to save people money on flood insurance premiums, right? It's either the community rating system and improving your rating there, which ARBC is going to demonstratively do through the results of the deliverables from this master plan, which is a tangible benefit for every single community that's in the confines of our political jurisdiction. But the other piece is, the only other way is to remap and take a look at what your flood risk is now compared to what it was eons ago when these maps were created, in some cases 3 decades or more. So I'd really encourage anybody that's in here that's got the ear of one of your parish presidents or your parish leadership to consider taking a look at the results of this and what happens before and after, and taking a look at working with your state floodplain manager at DOTD and asking about the what if. Looking at what would happen if you reduced the number of policies or improved your CRS rating, how much money that would put back into your local communities, not into your general fund, into your homeowners' pocketbooks. That's reducing the cost of home ownership, making your home cheaper to own for your citizens, and not just citizens in a floodplain, because CRS improvements give discounts to everyone, not just in a special flood hazard area, but anybody that has a flood insurance policy. And those folks that aren't in the floodplain anymore, if they get remapped, the prices of those flood insurance premiums go down drastically if they're no longer in a flood zone. So I'm really interested to see that part of the master plan, Sam, and would love to give you some feedback and dive into that. So anytime you can engage with me. I know my schedule's gotten a little more difficult lately, but anytime I'd appreciate him. So thank you.
Absolutely, and that's one of the goals. We're trying to get a draft out hopefully next week. I'd love to get your input on that, and there'll be appendices as well that really drill down to the individual parish level. So we'll get all that as soon as we can.
So you're not getting me a Christmas present. You're getting me a master plan for Christmas.
Yep. We'll give you a Christmas off.
Gotcha.
Okay, thanks, Commissioner O'Neill. Do we have any more comments? Yes. Larry. Hold on. There you go.
One of the things on what Commissioner O'Neill has raised, if we could get information that would take single individual homeowners with a house worth 300, 200, 400, who were incorrectly included in the floodplain, and what those new insurance rates would potentially be. That's what people are looking for, that could demonstrate what the commission has really been able to do. So
So I think the other Commissioner O'Neill probably have fantastic insight onto this, and so I don't want to speak for her, but I would say that the CRS program, DOTD floodplain management can run a CRS what if, so that if the city of Denham Springs or Ascension Parish or St. James went from a Class 9 rating to a Class 7 rating, it would show you how many of those, it would say, hey, these are the number of flood insurance policies in force today. This is what the average premium looks like. This is what the total cost of those premiums are to the citizens of this parish, just in total raw dollar numbers. Then for each rating you go down, it'll run the same math for you so that you can say, okay, well, if I took steps to reach a 7, a 6, a 5, there's a couple communities out here that I think are a 4 or in line to be a 4 in Louisiana. What do those discounts look like? What do those savings look like? And then what does the average policy premium look like in the parish after that improvement is done? And so I think, I know you guys are liaisoning with DOTD. I don't know if that's data or information you could pull as a part of that. I don't know what your burn rate looks like on the budget, but that is probably something for every NFIP participating community in ARBC. That information is available from DOTD, and we could at least include it as an appendix or just have that information out there for folks, just to maybe potentially motivate them to get participating in the things like NFIP and the community rating system or CRS. So
yeah. We do have some of that information in there. We are estimating some of the benefits of some of the communities that are not in CRS now based on the average policy cost that FEMA publishes. As I'm sure you know, the challenge with insurance rates right now, it's pretty much a black box that I guess is proprietary and not shared anymore. So a few years ago, it was certainly easier to project what the premiums were going to be versus now. It's we know roughly some of the things that go into it, but it's very much more a black box now how them rates are applied or determined.
it's fun.
Thanks for those comments. We have any more comments? I mean, what Commissioner O'Neill brought up, that sounds just pretty straightforward and pretty easy, but kind of breaking it down where the people that are actually paying for this can see it and the difference. I think that's would be an incentive in encouraging them for taking these extra steps to lower their insurance premiums. Any more comments, Commissioner O'Neill?
Yes, like Commissioner O'Neill was stating, the CRS can save your citizens a lot of money, but being removed from the special flood hazard area with new mapping can relieve your citizens of the mandatory purchase requirement of flood insurance. Although we would still encourage you to have the minimum amount of coverage, just because of events like 2016, there will always be a greater chance flood that comes through. Yep. But some of the work that Dewberry has done has shown that with new FEMA maps, where we are mapped correctly, it would remove 13,000 people from the mandatory purchase requirement, and that would be a lifesaver on the money that people have to spend every year. So,
that's incredible. Any more comments? Okay, thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item, moving right along, is a update on the Comeet River Diversion project. We have Commissioner Harrell that sits on that task force, but I know our legal counsel, Mr. Larry Bankston, follows that closely. Mr. Larry, can you give us an update on that, please?
I'll give it a portion of it and ask Mr. Marino to update on the continuing saga of Florida Gas. In your packet, 85 of the 89 parcels have been acquired. They're still waiting on information on the appraisal on Brooks Lake. There are some bridge status improvements. Highway 964 is 91% complete. Highway 67 is 89.5. And LA 19, they're assembling right now at this particular time. There are some in your packet, the list of items that have been dealt with as far as utility relocation. That has been complicated to some degree because of the fact that there have been revisions in the utility requirements as a result of changes by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. But I'll ask Mr. Marino to maybe give an update as it relates to Florida Gas.
Mr. Marino.
Well, yeah. So the main issue with Florida Gas, the big drill, is proceeding. So and I don't recall the timeline for that, but they're moving on it. Well, I know they've mobilized out there to do everything to get started. Amen. Amen. So
Okay, anything else?
No, Brooks Lake, like you said, is to be determined. We got to get the right of way and everything.
Larry, did they give a timeline for the process for Florida Gas from now, since they're mobilizing to, or is it just we get there?
So,
No,
hold
they
on.
did.
Oh,
And I just
let me recognize and have a little order here. This is a board meeting. Okay, Commissioner O'Neill.
My apologies. I'm from Livingston
No problem.
Parish. I'm Robert's rules.
I am
decorum.
too.
I was going to claim it, John. You didn't have to claim it. No. So is my question to you folks over there to my right was, obviously, the mobilization's occurring. Do we have some type of construction ETA, some type of project management plan that says, hey, we're going to be 50% complete at this date, 75%, we're going to be substantially complete by this date? Or is it they're just telling us we get there when we get there, like we're on our way to an amusement park in the back of our parents' cars in the summer?
No, there was a timeline.
Hold on.
I'm sorry, Larry Marino.
Yep.
Larry Marino. And
Yes.
sorry about that. There is a timeline. I just don't recall what it was. But no, it's not just when we get there, although that's kind of the practical reality with Florida Gas, no matter what anybody says. But they're moving forward with due diligence, is my understanding.
Okay, Mr. Bankston.
The concern is Brooks Lake. Brooks Lake is that area we've described before, and I'll say it again, would be to the south of the Lily Bayou structure that would go into where the water would ultimately get into the Mississippi River. Florida Gas is located in that area also. So that issue has not been resolved as to whether or not we have to get an additional relocation of Florida Gas, which means you've got to go through the entire FERC process potentially again. So I'm hoping that the Corps of Engineers is examining the issue as to whether or not you could avoid that potential aspect, but it's there. And why that wasn't looked at and considered in the several years ago, I cannot speak to that.
Can I add?
Yep, Commissioner.
So to the extent of the delay, it's going to depend a lot on what they have to do. You had to go to FERC. They had to go to FERC because of the extent of that relocation. If there's something else that can be done that's not as expensive, it's determined by the cost, the level of analysis required at FERC. That'll make the difference.
Commissioner O'Neill, you had a comment?
We're basically beholden to the Corps to determine whether or not there's additional remediation or mitigation that needs to occur to this gas line. And then if there is, it's up to whomever to figure out what the cost of that additional work, or the extent of that additional work, or the scope and scale of that additional work, whether it has to go back through the bill on Capitol Hill process that is FERC. So we need to put, should we send should we have all the commissioners sign a Christmas card and send it to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers MVN? Is that who's doing this? I mean,
Yeah,
Go ahead.
So I guess it's an iterative process here between the Corps and Florida Gas has to agree that their pipes are safe, given whatever is being done on top of it. So it's what's going to be done on top of it. The Corps can determine what is necessary to protect the pipeline. Florida Gas would determine, and then when there's a proposal for what to do about it, which depends on all those two other things, then there has to be agreement with the Corps and Florida Gas that that's the way to do it. the additional requirements going under levies or whatever it happens to be the Corps might impose. Sometimes they have to allow waivers of certain requirements. So it depends, I guess.
I just want to say that, the Comeet River Task Force Committee has regular meetings, and, for this kind of really good input, detailed type of input and comments and question can probably be answered there. This is just kind of a status update on this particular project. Do I have any more comments, Gary?
Just one, I promise, at least about this status. Is there any way we can reach out? Would the commission be okay with us reaching out to Mr. Duran Elzy with the Corps to ask them to come to ARBC's next meeting and provide some type of update on what they think? I mean, is there any way that we could expedite whatever additional solution is required, or them to give us some type of timeline on what that solution looks like? Is there any harm in making that outreach and asking either Garvin or whoever's acted in that position or role to ask for an update in person?
I don't see that that's a problem, but they give updates. Every meeting. And Larry, they send them around. DOTD, the people that head that, they provide those at that time. So, something above and beyond that, is surely at our venue here is not out of question. I'm just trying to duplication and maximize, these public meetings, that a lot of information you're asking is provided at these Comeet River Task Force Commission meetings. Commissioner Harris.
We sit on that task force, and Commissioner Harrell's not here today, who would normally update us on all this stuff. So he's on top of this and is active in these meetings every month when they meet. So Mark couldn't make it today is the reason we're just sort of ad-libbing, filling in what we know.
Any more comments? Okay. All right. Moving along, our meeting agenda is number 10, new business. And anyone have any new business? There's nothing listed on the agenda. Okay. And next item is number 11, general and non-agenda items, public comments on anything in regards to the Amite River Basin Commission, and whether it's general or non-agenda items or anything. Commissioner O'Neill?
I just want to make a comment about some of the comments that were said, that were made today in public about projects, in general or in specific. Any project that comes before this group that has to go before the Office of Community Development through the Louisiana Watershed Initiative would have to demonstrate there's no adverse impact if they're going to provide drainage improvement. They couldn't do that with an engineer putting their seal and their career on the line to demonstrate that project could move forward. Also, there were some comments about archaeological or environmental and historical protection. There's request or there's actual federal laws that require you, if you're going to move and even begin to study, you have to demonstrate that you've reached out to the appropriate jurisdictional authority, explained what the scope of the project looks like, and then receive what's called a letter of no objection, or what we call a LONO. And if you don't have those, you will not pass go, you will not collect $200, you will not move forward. So there are many stopgaps and safeguards that ensure that all the proper procedures are followed to ensure that environmental and historical protection are followed before a project like this gets implemented. I just want to address some of those comments that were made earlier today. So otherwise, Merry Christmas to the Amite River Basin Commission and to everybody out there.
Thank you, Gary. Commissioner Quintmall.
Yeah, Gary actually beat me to it on the end there. I just want to thank this commission for all the hard work in 2024. I know you dedicate your time, and it can get quite inconvenient traveling around to all the different parishes and to the state capitol every meeting and special meetings and things like that. So I just want to thank everybody for their hard work, and also the public's participation throughout the year. I think, like many of my commissioners, I think we look forward to 2025 and finalizing our master plan, including starting some projects that we got throughout the region. So with that, Merry Christmas to everyone and Happy Holidays, and be safe out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Quinmall. That's nice, and I echo those comments. We've done a lot this year with the little that we have, but I'm encouraged more than anyone with what we're doing and the makeup of our board, unlike ever before, where parishes are working together as one, speaking on a regional level. Not just political in my parish kind of level. Water knows no political boundaries, and this board recognizes that. And together, if we stick together, there's going to be some great things to come. And I feel that 2025 is going to be a really good year where you're going to see some dirt turned. Any comments? Commissioner O'Neill?
I just found out today that this is Gary O'Neill's last commission meeting. His 2 years is rolling off, and he will not be on the commission anymore. And I would like to thank him for his participation and 2 years of service. Thank you.
That's nice. Very heartfelt. And no, Gary, we've enjoyed your presence and all your comments, and never shortage of words and explanation and details.
Thanks, Mom.
Whether y'all knew that, Team O'Neill is on the ARBC board, and that's hadn't been a bad thing. Okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Okay, motion by Commissioner Quinmall and a second by Commissioner Harris. And thank you all for coming out today.
Good too, man. Good too.